Okay. I'd like to start off by saying, you argued that that Section 4 was constitutional, but the Supreme Court ruled that it's not. The Supreme Court is one of the three main branches of the government, and they literally interpret laws.
I get what you're saying. So you basically just said a statement, and you want me to respond to it. I'll do that. So basically, the Supreme Court, sure, it's the final law of the land, but think about framers' intent. The framers who made this resolution, they had the intent that they wanted to debate it. So obviously, neither side off the bat is right. We can question the Constitution. I mean, we can question the Supreme Court. It's not final. We're not like making laws here. We're just kind of analyzing what the Supreme Court did, whether it's right or wrong. That just because the Supreme Court voted on something doesn't mean that it's 100% right and con isn't the side.
But they're the Supreme Court. Their ruling is the law of the land, like what you just said.
Sure, but the question is, did they rightly decide? So you're saying they rightly decided. We're saying they weren't. The question isn't, should this be the law? The question is, were they right? We can still analyze that. Nobody's perfect. They don't have to be 100% right. Like, you don't win off the bat just because the Supreme Court is on your side.
Okay. Well, do you have a question?
Sure. Okay, so do you agree that a law doesn't have to be optimal to be rational? So basically, a law doesn't have to be perfect. So just because the data might be old, a law doesn't have to be perfect. Like, no law is perfect, right? So a law doesn't have to be perfect.
I agree with that, but a law shouldn't be, just because a law isn't perfect doesn't mean it. There's some flaws that a law can have that will make the law unnecessary or unconstitutional.
So if a law is not perfect, why is it unconstitutional?
It can be, and that's what we're saying for Section 4.
So you're saying that just because Section 4 isn't 100% perfect, it's unconstitutional?
That's not what I said.
Okay. So then what are you saying?
What I'm saying is just because it is not perfect doesn't mean like, oh, this law isn't perfect.
Well, you talk about old data. That's kind of the point that I'm getting at. You say that just because it's unconstitutional because it uses old data.
I was saying it was unconstitutional because it violates federalism.
Well, we've already talked about that, and I addressed that in my rebuttal. So is that the only reason it's unconstitutional, because it violates federalism?
It also does violate old data, just because all this stuff was made in the 60s. Like,
okay, but
you're arguing that since the 1980s, there have been 2,400, and it's like they just because that's 32 years, 1982. That a lot can change in 32 years. Are you saying that the amount of racial tolerance has not changed noticeably in 32 years?
What we're giving you evidence is that it has. You asked for states that have passed racially discriminatory laws. The minute that Section 4 was struck down, North Carolina and Texas both passed voter ID laws, which are detrimental to